Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Brian's Horror Corner, and welcome to this horror movie review for day 27 of my 31 Days of Halloween Horror series. So today we're going to take a look at a very recent movie, a very recent haunted house slasher movie from 2019, and that is the movie Haunt, which was it was dropped on Shudder in 2019. It actually was not a theatrical release. So, um, second time watch for me. I saw this on Shudder about a year ago. Actually, I think it was around Halloween last year, and so I went out and purchased it. So yeah, Haunt from 2019. Let's just go ahead and get into it. Sorry about the lighting again, guys. It's that time of the day where the sun's setting on the side of my head. So, Haunt is a 2019 American slasher film written and directed by Scott Beck and Brian Woods. It's set on Halloween night. The film follows a group of friends who encounter an extreme haunted house that promises to feed on their darkest fears. The night turns deadly as they come to the horrifying realization that some nightmares are real. So basically, it opens on Halloween night in Carbondale, Illinois. Roommates Harper and Bailey attend a party together where they meet with their friends Angela and Mallory. The group befriends two guys, Nathan and Evan, at a local bar. Throughout the night, Harper suspects she is being stalked by a man in a devil mask. The group encounters a haunted house attraction. Before they enter, they are forced to surrender their cell phones and sign liability waivers. The group becomes separated after entering a maze. Bailey, Nathan, and Angela encounter a series of armholes. As Bailey sticks her arm inside, it is slashed with a straight razor. She also accidentally loses Harper's mom's ring, which she was wearing. Harper and Evan lose Mallory. They meet back up with the others and witness a performer in a witch mask impale Mallory through the head with a hot fire poker. Now believing they are in danger, the group sends Nathan to find an exit. He encounters a man in a ghost mask, Mitch, who agrees to help. Devil Mask kills Angela. Bailey flees to the tunnels and accidentally activates the trapdoor, dropping Nathan into the house's operation rooms. He saves Harper from Devil Mask before finding the group's phones. Evan and Mitch make it outside, but Mitch kills him with a hammer before ripping off his face. So that's the setup and the premise for Haunt. As far as the cast goes, we have Katie Stevens as Harper, Will Brittain, Will Brittain as Nathan, Lauren McLean as Bailey, Andrew Caldwell as Evan, Shazzy Raja as Angela, and Schuler Helford as Mallory. I'm sure I'm butchering most of those names, but anyway, yeah, that's the setup, the premise, and the cast for the 2019 haunted house slasher Haunt. Yeah, I really enjoyed this movie. When I saw it on Shudder a year ago, it's definitely, again, like from my other reviews from not too long ago in this series, I really love the Halloween attraction kind of movies, like with Hell House LLC, Hellfest, and then Haunt. Just having those the Halloween haunted house attraction kind of vibes are I really enjoy those, and so when you make a movie on them, you got me right off the bat. I'm intrigued, and this movie does a really good job for what it is. And so let's just go ahead and get into it, starting with the things that I really like about Haunt from 2019. So the biggest thing about this movie is I really love the atmosphere that this movie has. As a viewer, you really feel this movie. You really feel like you're right there with these characters in this haunted house with where you can't escape. Um, whether they're in small confined spaces or being stalked by certain masked characters. They do a really good job of creating tension and suspense because of this overall atmosphere that's just in this movie. It's like fog. It's like thick fog. It's really good atmosphere. So yeah, that's the biggest thing about Haunt is just the overall creepy atmosphere and how they use it to really engage the viewer, make the viewer feel like they're right there in this movie, and really build good suspense and tension and scares with that atmosphere. So that's the biggest thing. Obviously, I really dig the Halloween vibes and atmosphere in this movie. Obviously, being set right on Halloween, you get a lot of Halloween atmosphere, not just the haunted house attraction that they go to, but the props in the haunted house that they use, the cheaper props, obviously the masked figures that they run into in this haunted house, the costumes that they're wearing and other people are wearing, the decor throughout the movie. It's got really hard, really badass or hardcore, I should say, Halloween vibes and atmosphere. And so that's definitely what I'm looking for in a movie this time of the year. And this movie really delivers on that. So definitely one of the better Halloween vibe and atmosphere horror movies that are out there. It's a really good movie to watch right now. I would recommend in the next 3 or 4 days before the end of the month, checking out Haunt. Um, and then another pro that I have is the most of the characters in this movie are likable enough. They're other than one, which I'll get into in my cons, they were really well written. Specifically, our main character of Harper. We kind of have two main characters, Harper and Nathan, played by Katie Stevens and Will Brattain. But the main character of Harper is given a pretty strong background and backstory and context to her character that comes into play throughout the movie, but especially in the latter half of the movie, that was really interesting and compelling, and it really worked to make the overall movie much more of an engaging and interesting narrative that we wouldn't have had otherwise. A lot of times in these slasher movies, especially modern ones, but even going back to the 80s, you're just throwing a bunch of people and say, here are your characters, and they all just sort of they're all cliched and they all just get killed. But this movie actually does a good job of giving us some characters that we care about, especially the main character. Kind of given where she came from, is why she's the way that she is at the time, and how she ends up overcoming that through the traps and challenges that she faces in this movie here. So yeah, definitely really like the characters in this movie for the most part. Really made it much more engaging and a much more effective horror slasher movie. And then on to that note, the acting performances are really good by most of the cast here, really solid, especially those two main leads, Katie Stevens, who plays Harper, and Will Brattain, who plays Nathan. I would say the other characters, the side characters like Lauren McLean and Shazzy Raja and um, Schuler Helford are good as well. They do a good job given the fact they don't have as much to do in this movie. But Katie Stevens and Will Brattain, I really like them in this movie. Again, another cliche. A lot of times you get bad acting in these slasher movies, especially low budget slasher movies. And this is a more a lower budget, lower production slasher movie. That's why it didn't have a theatrical release. It was released on streaming services, mostly Shudder. But yeah, the acting's actually good in this movie, led by those two main performers. They do a really solid job of being scared when they need to be scared at certain moments of the movie, and being strong when they need to be strong as the movie goes on, with facing these villains head on and fighting for their lives. Basically, they give believable portrayals that certainly add to the engagement of the movie. And I don't know, I felt like these young people felt like real young people that you'd actually meet at a bar or at a haunted house attraction. They didn't feel like they were trying to put on for a movie. So yeah, really good performances there for the most part. Um, the movie does a good job kind of getting into that atmosphere thing of building suspense and tension. They do a good job of not giving us many false jump scares, which again, another cliche in slasher movies, we tend to get a lot of those false scares or those jump scares, and this movie might have one or two of those, but it really doesn't. It doesn't. Its horror is not relied on jump scares, which is just so refreshing to see, especially from a really recent slasher movie. But again, they forgo the jump scares and the cheap false scares, and again build that tension and the suspense through different scenes and atmosphere and situations. And that's the best part about this movie. The fact that relies more on situational tension that's built to effectively scare the viewer that way, as opposed to the loud noises that everybody knows what jump scares are, where it's quiet and then all of a sudden you get that loud sound, which basically, yeah, it makes people jump, but it doesn't mean that it's scary. It's just such a cheap thing, and this movie doesn't do it. So I really appreciated that. And then, the movie has effective blood and gore. Obviously, you have Eli Roth tied to this movie as a producer. Now, I will say it's not as bloody or gory as like Hostel or the Hostel movies. But for this movie, it is effectively gory and bloody. You do get a good amount, especially blood, but you get a good amount of both, I would say, in this movie. Again, not the goriest movie I've ever seen, but it's effective for this movie without being over the top. And then the villains too. I have to talk about the villains in this movie. There's like 5 or 6 villains, which I'm not going to give away what they're tied to this haunted houses, but basically they're a group of people that the masks that they're wearing aren't necessarily as frightening as what's underneath the masks. And in some of their cases, they're kind of trying to transform themselves underneath the masks as much as what they do with the masks. So the masks are effective. I mean, they're nothing overly blown. They're like Halloween masks you could probably get at any five and dime, any Spirit Halloween, but the look of them underneath the mask, the makeup effects and the gore effects are really good in this movie. And but yeah, the villains do a really solid job. They're unforgiving, they're relentless, they're scary. As I said, especially when the masks come off, and they're not here to screw around or to amuse you or have fun. So that was really effective. The villains are really effective, and a lot of times in these slasher movies and horror movies, you got to have effective villains. You don't have anything. And then I have to say the ending of this movie as well. I really liked. They could have gone the traditional tropey way where it ends a certain way, but they kind of gave a nice sort of a nice little revenge scene, a nice little last 5 minutes of the movie that kind of made you feel like fuck yeah. As a viewer who's been watching these characters be tormented for the better part of 90 minutes, we kind of get some catharticism at the end of the movie, a really cathartic finale to the movie. And I really enjoyed that. It's not over the top, punched in your face or anything, and it's not overly creative, but it is overly effective, I would say, for the movie that we're watching here. So yeah, I just really enjoy Haunt, especially for this time of the year. Those are my pros for it. I do have a couple of cons. It's not a perfect movie by any stretch, and the biggest one, if you heard me talk about the characters and the acting in this movie, I hate to do this, but I have to call out one of the actors, but more or less one of the characters, and that's Andrew Caldwell, who plays Evan. I really cannot stand that character. More the character than the actor, although I have to say I've seen Andrew Caldwell and other things, and I don't know what it is, man. I do not like this dude. I don't think he's a great actor, to be honest with you. He tries to do the humor, sort of the fat goofy guy that every group of teenagers or young people seem to have in their group to make everybody laugh, and he just doesn't do it for me, man. From an acting standpoint. Now you get into his character, which is even worse for me. Again, it's just such a cliched character, and then the worst part about his character is he's this fat, funny, lovable guy that they try to portray, and then he tries to be all badass and stuff with one of these masked villains in the movie getting up in his face like, "Who the fuck are you, man?" And it's just like I was laughing at him, but not in the way that he wanted me to, or that I think the movie creators wanted me to. I was laughing at him in terms of the joke of a character that he was. Like, I'm going to be afraid of this fucking guy. Come on, man. So I did not like that character at all. And like I said, I really just don't care for Andrew Caldwell. So he was definitely a sore thumb that stuck out, and so was his character more than him as an actor. Also, the last 20 or 30 minutes of the movie brought a lot of the typical slasher cliches, more or less related to not so much jump scares or other things, but more or less related to characters making bad decisions and dumb decisions, which this movie really did a good job of avoiding for the first hour or so of this movie. So it's kind of disappointing. It's like, guys, you were so close. But yeah, the last 20, 30 minutes does have some of those bad decision character moments that we often get in slasher movies. They're very cliched. Um, but yeah, that's really all I got. That one character and slash actor, and then hitting on some of those slasher cliches that they almost got away with avoiding for the majority of this movie. But other than that, I really enjoyed this movie. This is definitely a diamond in the rough. a movie that a lot of people probably don't know about because, like I said, it wasn't a theatrical release. It was a streaming release in 2019 on Shudder. I know. I'm not sure. It's probably on other streaming services as well. No, I'm not really sure. You'll have to check it out. But yeah, Haunt from 2019. Man, I really like this movie, especially for a Halloween time of the year watch right now, and it's really effective for what it is. So I'm going to give this movie a. Mm, I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10. That one character, man, just bugs me. I don't know what else to tell you. That's why I have to dock at least a point just for the character, and then the character decisions at the end a little bit to half a point there. So 8.5 out of 10, but I really still do enjoy it. Definitely check it out. I do recommend watching it. 8.5 out of 10 for Haunt from 2019. Check it out as a good Halloween horror movie slasher watch. So that's my review for Haunt for day 27 of my 31 Days of Halloween Horror series. Please like this video and hit the little notification bell down below so you don't miss any of my upcoming reviews for this series. And please be sure to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of my great horror content beyond this series and into next year even. So hope you enjoyed this review. Hope everybody's having a good October and Halloween season. And stay scared. Bye.